giving you a big hint. In fact, I'm telling you. The point of the matter is very simple here. Shrotriam Brahmanishtam. He's heard properly. He can therefore speak it properly. Therefore, he's fixed in the absolute truth. He's fixed in Brahmanishtam. Nishta. He's got a lot of power. So even though I remain very optimistic that when we go into the next Dasha, which is not immediate, we still have plenty to do with this Saturn bad period, dark period right now. But when we get off of this, when we go into the next period, it may be a Brahma realized Vaishnava. Not yet Krishna realized. Not yet even Paramatma realized. Remember, Paramatma realized means asampragata samadhi. Full mystic powers at that time. Because full mystic powers come previous to getting Paramatma. So, we can be satisfied with our position being very much degraded by the Saturn period here. If we can get that millionaire, yeah, that could work. That could still be that solar period. It'd be nice if it's the billionaire, if it's the Mahabhagavat, Samahatma Sadurlabha. But that's my prediction in regard to that. Long term, what do we know? Long term, we know this. Lord Chaitanya says his movement will spread to every town and village. Is it doing that now? It is not doing that now. It is contracting. Why is this? Because the whole thing has been corrupt. So it's not empowered with the Shakti. When we go into that solar period, it's going to be a change. If it's fate, if it's still this deviation that's going on and coin hasn't been flipped back over to providence, then it'll be like some kind of antichrist personality that'll be leading the movement. But if it's the good kind of personality, it might be a Brahma realized devotee, might be a Mahabhagavat, whatever. It'll be very different. It'll remind us of the real thing. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Now, you talked about the empowerment. It doesn't have the empowerment. What was that empowerment? And you may be repeating yourself a bit, but it's all really valuable information. What was the empowerment? How was it lost? And where could that empowerment have taken us if we hadn't lost it?
Well, of course, Prabhupada had the Bhakti Shakti. So, Mahabhagavat has the Bhakti Shakti, who is Vaishnava. And it's the Seva attitude. As long as you're Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasad, Yasya Prasada Nagati Katopi. As long as you're doing what he wants and you're pleasing him. Now, you can either please him or you can impress him, which is even better. But if you're doing what he wants, if you're speaking the way he wants you to speak, according to what he has given you and said to speak, and if you're doing what he wants you to do, you'll be pleasing him. And if you're pleasing him, then the Bhakti Shakti, to some degree, works through you. Just like the powerhouse is there, but look at the electrical lines coming from the powerhouse. Those electrical lines, ultimately, once they hit the actual homestead, they're very, very small. So only a very small amount of electricity can pass through them because they are so small, those wires. But at the same time, you are connected to the powerhouse, but you are not the powerhouse. So Prabhupada's devotees were connected to the Bhakti Shakti, but in a small way like that. Now, when the deviation entered, they got disconnected. They connected up with another powerhouse. They aren't connected with the Parampara, the Guru Parampara powerhouse. They're connected with another powerhouse. So that empowerment, we need to get it back to the real powerhouse, which means return to square one on siddhanta, return to square one on the process, return to square one on the formula for authority, return to square one on behavior, return to square one on devotee reciprocation. All these things have to return to square one to get us back to the powerhouse. And it's going to be a very painful process. There's no way around it. If you've been eating constantly rice and yogurt and bananas and you've been eating, and all of a sudden now you got constipation so bad and it can't even move, well, you got a problem. And you're going to have to undergo pain to get out of that problem, and there's no way around it. We're not going to describe all the details of what you got to do, but you're going to have to do things that are going to be very distasteful and painful. So this whole thing is bollocksed up. In order to get it freed from that, we're going to have to undergo pain. We're going to have to undergo attrition. Attrition is taking place gradually anyway. I'm not saying the whole thing has to crater, but there's going to be pain and attrition if it's going to be able to flip back to providence.
So I like this square one concept. It's something, it's simple, something you can get your head around. Practically, how could you see that happening, the movement going back to square one?
Shock only. There has to be a shocking development. Would you not agree that the murder Sulochan was a shock?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be another one, but it doesn't have to be a murder. It has to be the shock of seeing how corrupt the whole thing is. Just shockingly corrupt.